A stranger broke into my apartment at 1 a.m. recently, and at first, I thought he must have been either a burglar or a stalker, but it turns out the actual reason he broke in was much more disturbing. Especially when a couple days later, I found recordings of what happened that night from his perspective. I know this all sounds confusing, but let me explain. A couple nights ago, just after midnight, I was doom scrolling through my phone as I do every night, and out of nowhere, I heard the front door to my apartment swing open. At first, I didn't even panic, because my roommates come home late all the time, and I figured it was just one of them. But what was weird about this was, I heard them moving around in the living room rather than going to their own room. Because normally, after getting home this late, they would just go directly to bed. And my room is right next to the living room, and the walls in a college apartment are more thin than a celebrity on Ozempic, so I could hear everything coming from there. Not even joking. One time I heard a mosquito fart on the other side of that wall. So a couple minutes after the door opened, I pretty much forgot all about it, just assuming it was one of my roommates, and I decided it was time to go to sleep. But as I'm lying there, eyes closed, mouth tape on my mouth so I can wake up looking beautiful, I hear a voice. A deep, creepy voice in the living room. I immediately knew it wasn't my roommate because he has a higher pitched voice that sounds more like SpongeBob. It's not even that high pitched. I just like rage baiting him. He doesn't even watch my content though, so he won't see this. But the voice coming from the living room was definitely too deep to be my roommate's. So once I heard this, my entire body went cold. But before thinking the worst, I tried to use some logic. What's the most plausible explanation for who's out there? Someone randomly walked into the apartment in the middle of the night and is in the living room. Chances are, it's one of my roommate's friends, right? Of course that's probably what's going on. So I grabbed my phone, got flashbanged by the brightness because for some reason, it likes to turn it all the way up without telling me, and I sent a message to the group chat with all my roommates in it. That for some reason is called the Titanic swim team. And I said to them, hey, does someone have a friend over at the apartment right now? Because the walls are so thin, I could literally hear the notification sound go off on my roommate's phone. But of course, he didn't respond for the first 30 seconds because it makes you look down bad. And then he texted, no, I'm in my room just listening to music. Which would explain why he didn't say anything about the person in the living room because he probably didn't hear it. Then my second roommate responded, nope, I'm staying at my girlfriend's place tonight. Must be nice. But anyways, when they sent that text, my heart sank. Now, I really had no idea who was in the living room. There was a complete stranger in my living room with only a wall that young Sheldon could even punch through separating us. I laid out my options of what to do. First, I looked to see if I had a weapon, just in case it got to the point where I had to use it. I saw my baseball bat in the corner, and I knew that was an option. Then I looked at my window and thought, would I be able to survive if I made an attempt to jump out of this onto the ground? Well, considering I live on the 8th floor, probably not. My knees can't even handle jogging at this point. I don't think they would do good with a 100-foot fall. So after weighing all my options, what did I do? I used the unpatchable method, which is to hide under your covers so no one can hurt you. Who cares if a serial killer or burglar was breaking in? As long as I got my blanket over me, that's a force field. No one can get in. I just laid there for a couple minutes, listening to what this stranger was doing, mentally saying goodbye to my parents in my head, thinking about all the things I never got to experience, like going to Japan or telling LeBron I love him. And then I heard something. The stranger in my living room started snoring. Loud snores that penetrated my walls as if an earthquake was happening. I was starting to think my dad broke in with how loud the snoring was. I was more so confused rather than fearful now. What kind of burglar breaks into someone's apartment and takes a nap? Was this some sort of weird new trend? Come with me to break into a random person's apartment and try out their couch. Our furniture wasn't even comfortable. I sometimes just sit on the ground because of how bad it is. I don't know how you could fall asleep on there, especially in these circumstances. The logical part of me knew I had exactly 2 options. Stay hidden in my room until morning and hope this guy didn't suddenly wake up with a craving for midnight snacks in my bedroom, or confront him and potentially star in my own episode of Dumb Ways to Die. I texted the Titanic swim team once again, telling them that I thought an intruder might have just broken into our apartment, but by this time, both of them must have been asleep, or they had those dang phones on Do Not Disturb like always, because I didn't get a response. I was really hoping my roommate who was still there would at least respond, because low-key, we all know the person who goes to investigate the strange noise is the first one to go. And although I consider him a good friend, let's just say I would not have minded if he confronted this person before I did. It's like the people talking about 100 men trying to fight one gorilla. 100 men probably could beat the gorilla, but let's be real. The first 20, 30 men to go, y'all are cooked. Thank you for your sacrifice. Unfortunately, it seemed like I was gonna have to be that first person in this scenario. I was terrified, but from what I heard, my intruder was knocked out on my couch in the living room, which gave me a strange advantage. But that almost made me more scared than if it was just a strange person moving around in there. Because who would be willing to risk jail time by breaking into someone's apartment just to catch some Z's on their couch? After a couple minutes, I knew I had to make a decision on what to do. I decided I was gonna be that brave first man to go after this stranger. So I grabbed the baseball bat, took a deep breath, peed myself a little bit out of terror, and went to be the hero. With the bat firmly in my hands and my legs shaking, making me do an unintentional twerk, I inched toward my bedroom door. I paused with my hand on the doorknob, listening. The snoring kept going, uninterrupted. The decision was made. At least, if I wasn't gonna make it, I was gonna go down a hero. Or, realistically, no one would care. That's probably what would really happen, let's be honest. But I gripped that bat so hard my veins started popping, slowly turned the doorknob, trying not to make a sound, and prepared to face whatever weirdo had decided my apartment was the perfect spot for an impromptu sleepover. As the door creaked open, I froze for a split second. My brain was trying to process what I was about to do. But there I was, inching forward like I was stepping on invisible landmines. Convinced every floorboard in our apartment had secretly joined forces against me so that every step I took sounded 1,000 times louder than it did normally. Or maybe I was just gaining some weight, low-key. But anyways, I kept going. While walking through the hallway, I could see the light from the street lamp outside casting a horror movie glow across our living room. And once I looked around the corner, there he was. A random person I had never seen before spread across our couch like he owned the place. No mask or anything. It was a man in a gray hoodie and jeans, mouth open, mid-snore. I stood there with my bat raised, ready to defend myself against a guy taking a nap? It was weird, but if I wanted to do some damage, now was the time. But I'm a lover, not a fighter, so I lowered the bat slowly, squinting at his face. Did I know this guy? Maybe from economics class or something? The pizza guy who always messes up my order? I tried my hardest, but nothing clicked. I had no idea who this man was. So now this put me in even more of a predicament because in this exact moment, he clearly wasn't a threat, but he still broke into my house and I didn't know what his intentions were. And let me just tell you, knowing what I know now, they were not good. So I backed away, deciding I needed evidence of him sleeping on my couch just in case things went south. So I grabbed my phone and snapped a quick picture of him. I accidentally left the dang flash on, so a bright light just flashed in his face while he was sleeping. Fortunately, that didn't wake him up. But now for the hard part. I positioned myself about 6 feet away, outside of lunging distance, and I cleared my throat. Hey. No response, just snoring. Hey. Hey. After several failed attempts, I extended my bat and gently poked his shoulder. He jolted upright like he'd been electrocuted, eyes wild and disoriented. Then he spotted me with my bat and let out a panicked yelp that probably woke up half the building. What are you doing in my apartment? What are you doing in my apartment? We stood frozen in this bizarre standoff. Me with my bat, him cowering around the couch, and after what felt like forever, he looked around at the posters, the TV, the Ice Spice flag my roommate decided to hang up for some reason, and his face transformed from scared to confused to mortified. This isn't my apartment. Yeah, I know. Why are you here? He ran his hand through his hair, looking genuinely baffled. I thought, this is exactly like my place. Same layout and everything. So you just happened to break into an apartment that looks exactly like yours? I guess so. You didn't notice our stuff when you walked in and realized that this isn't your place? I was really tired, man. I came through the door and I wanted to go to sleep. Then I noticed something weird. He was wearing these unique looking glasses, and every few seconds, he kept adjusting them, just enough to catch my attention. It sparked my curiosity and triggered something in my brain. What I didn't realize then was that these odd looking glasses would explain everything a little bit down the line. Because with my bat gripped tightly, I watched as this random dude surveyed my living room, realizing he was in the wrong place. His eyes darted everywhere, his face scrunching up more with each new detail he noticed. Dude, I swear I thought this was my apartment. Same couch, oh wait. No, this couch is blue. Mine is gray. When he said that, I responded back to him. Yeah, the couch isn't the same color as yours because it's not your apartment. It's mine that you broke into. He shook his head confused and then said, no, I live in this apartment. Room 904. And there it was. I saw what he did wrong now. Because I had to break the news that he wasn't in room 904. He was in room 804. But his excuse for why he came into my apartment was a lie. And I found that out a couple days later. Because as he was trying to rationalize this whole situation, he said to me, I'm sorry, man. I must have just walked into the wrong stairwell and came into this apartment thinking that it was my place. I thought that this would have been the end of the situation after we figured out that it was just one big misunderstanding and he didn't mean any real harm, but boy was I wrong. Because something about his tone felt off. Now, I never met this guy before, so maybe he was always like this, but something about the way he was talking made it sound like he was acting, like there was something else going on. This strange tone, paired with the fact that he kept oddly adjusting his glasses every few seconds, didn't sit right with me. But then he said to me, listen, can we just keep this between us? It would be really, really embarrassing if anyone knew about this. The way he emphasized really embarrassing while clutching those glasses brought even more suspicion to me. Those glasses seemed to be more important to him than actually breaking and entering into someone's place. I knew something deeper was happening, but in that moment, I just wanted him out of my apartment. So I said, whatever, dude, just take your stuff and go. Just make sure you're more careful next time, okay? He then told me how grateful he was for me being cool about the situation, and he left. After I shut the front door, I watched through the peephole to see what he would do. But what he did next really caught me off guard, because he took the glasses off and put them in his pocket. And I don't personally wear glasses, but to all the people out there who do, is it just normal to take your glasses off that you literally use to see while you're walking somewhere? I didn't know what to think, but it was late, so I made sure to shut that door and I went to bed. You would think this was the end of the story and we figured out the whole situation, but that wasn't true. Because for a couple days, I managed to convince myself that this was just a misunderstanding and some random guy accidentally broke into my apartment. Even though ever since the incident, I thought there was something extremely weird about it. The way he kept adjusting those distinctive glasses, and something about his explanation just never sounded honest. So it didn't sit right with me. But I nearly convinced myself to let it go. Until I saw him again. I almost missed it completely. Dodging through the crowd, backpack bouncing against my spine, my focus was on not being late to class, when there he was, Sleeping Beauty himself, walking out of a frat house and throwing a football around with the bros. But something was different about him this time. He wasn't wearing those glasses. Matter of fact, he wasn't wearing any glasses. Well, maybe he just had contacts in instead, right? Let's go see. Before my brain could talk any sense into me, my feet were already carrying me towards him. I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, long time no see." His reaction was very interesting. After making eye contact, it went from confusion to a flash of recognition to pure panic. His eyes widened dramatically and he dropped the football. Hey, what's up? I didn't know you were in a frat. After I said this, what he would say in his response was a big mistake. Because he goes, "Oh yeah, I live here." Wait. Just a couple weeks ago, he lived in my apartment. And now, he lives here? So I responded with, "Huh? I thought you lived in my apartment building." I could see him start to get red and have no idea how to respond. So I asked him what was really going on. "Okay, fine. I never lived in your apartment building. I'm really sorry about that night." "Yeah, that's what I figured. So why were you ever in there then?" He finally revealed his true intentions to me when he took a deep breath and said, "It was an initiation thing for the fraternity." He pointed back towards their house and then went, "They make pledges, do these challenges, and mine was to sneak into someone's apartment and sleep on their couch." I stared at him with my jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. We call it Goldilocksing. The guys pick random apartments and we have to sleep there." "That's crazy. I personally call that breaking and entering, but hey, you do you." So then I said to him, "Well, how'd you even get in? You guys left it unlocked. I swear I didn't take anything." But still curious about the explanation for the glasses, I said, "Well, I thought you wore glasses. Where are those at?" "No, I don't wear glasses. The ones I wore that night have a camera in them, and we have to wear them during the initiation to prove that we actually did it." So I was like, wait, that means you recorded breaking into my apartment and showed it to your whole frat house? He nodded and went, "Yeah, it's part of the challenge. You have to bring back proof. So your whole story about living upstairs was completely fake?" "Yeah, I figured that was the most believable story that I could tell to not get in trouble." So of course, I wanted to see the video, and he showed it to me. So I made him delete it, and all I can say is, I really hope he didn't make any extra copies of it because, let's just say, I am not the best looking dude at 1 a.m. when I think I'm being robbed.